I say that God has a sense of humor when a couple are matched and they're not the same. Because I think part of it is really just growing to accept the differences that you have.
Yeah.
I hear people saying, "Oh, I found my soulmate, and we're so alike." I said, "Well, that was not us. We were not. We liked a few things the same, but in many ways we're very different."
Yeah.
Um, and so I think we've grown to really accept. I mean, in 18 and a half, 19 years, 20 years now that we've known each other, there's a lot of things that will change you, um, especially difficulties. We've had many, many, many difficulties having to struggle through. And I think a lot of couples think that the biggest thing is to not have money. I mean, for us, that was only one of the many challenges that we had. Having a sick child. We nearly lost Michaela at least twice. I mean,
Yeah.
hospital, and she was on her way out.
Serious. Yeah.
And just clinging, and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
At that time, chocolate cake doesn't, you don't even want to eat.
Doesn't matter.
Did you buy a 5-studded gold ring with diamonds? Was it a platinum wedding? Those things won't matter. In fact, you trade any of those things for the health of your baby. What I give, what I give to have my dad back, our parents, those are in fact some of the things that I like to say to couples when they're trying to get married. Is this the person that you want to be standing with you when you're burying your parents? I think that's a very sobering thing, because number one, it puts into perspective.
Yeah.
At some point, your parents are going to depart. But another thing is that who do you want in the foxholes of life? Who do you want to fight your battles with you? Saying that stuff, then you begin to find that the stuff that we value at the wedding, what song did you march into? Few people remember.
Really think.
You have to think.
Yeah.
What was this? But it was such a problem. The auntie was saying, "I must be the one to cut the cake." Where are they? You wonder, oh wow, they're not there. So I think we really need to take charge of some of the things and put them in perspective. So for me,
Yeah.
I would say that I loved my wife with a romantic, emotional love when I met her. But now I know that I love her experientially. And it's a kind of love that is difficult to describe with saying, "Oh no, when I see her, I feel this," or when even though her smile still does that thing, that it does. And I'm just listening to her talking about some of these things. It reminds me, oh yeah, we were in love. It doesn't mean that I love her any less or she loves me any less. We have what I call a now mature altruistic love that has taken life's punches. I took her to a jazz concert.
Oh, that was very nice. That was very nice.
It was nice. Yeah, it was. And I think that's, when you have romance with the experience, it makes things, it's brightens it, because some things are serious. You can. We've been faced with some really, because it's life. Just the fact that you're past that doesn't mean that you won't have a sick kid. I had a sick kid. For years how many years we were running to the hospital saying, "Is she gonna make it? Is she gonna make it? Is she gonna make it?" And she made it. I mean, this kid's acted now in a film, 2 movies. She's incredible. Rose has lost her parents. I've lost my dad in the time, and that's a thing you go through. Not mentioning, not to mention other close relatives who we lost in between. Going through job loss, and
Yeah.
different changes. That's the stuff that I think really says now, where your 1,300 guests now,
Yeah, yeah.
just just come from the funeral, my wife's mom's funeral, and uh, and when we got into range, the phone rang. The phone rang, and somebody was crying on the other side. You need to come home immediately, immediately, immediately. Michaela's sick. And the last bus had left. The last plane had left. There was no way. What do I do? Hire a taxi to drive whatever kilometers. What was I gonna do? And so I was completely helpless. I wasn't with the child, and I can't even tell her mom because I couldn't reach my wife because trying to call was impossible. There was no reception where she was.
Oh my gosh, that was a long time
Yeah,
before proper connectivity.
it was actually quite. And so all I could do, because now her elder sister was with me, and she was fine, just hanging around, saying, "No, don't worry, Daddy." So I'm praying. They're eating. I'm praying. I couldn't eat, and as soon as it was morning, ran to the airport, jumped in a plane, got to Nairobi. Didn't do just. Tour went directly to the hospital. She had just been transferred to the high dependency unit, and next thing there she was, fighting. Fighting for her life,
Yeah.
and she's a fighter. She's been a fighter from day one.
She
Um,
has.
it was a challenge. I think that was a huge challenge for us. It was a huge challenge because of how she was sick. It wiped out our insurance. It wiped out our savings. So at that time, I was the only one with a job, and
Yeah.
what do we do? So our savings is wiped out, the insurance is wiped out. What do you do? What do you do? You just hope. You hope.
Yeah. That's what happens.
Yeah.
And I guess at a point like that, then you really must just trust God.
Mm.
And there's nothing really that you can do. Yes, you are the pastor. Yes, you're the one who talks about faith and having faith, and God will come through and He will heal, and He desires
Yeah.
that we're okay. But this is a situation. And so you really just, I think my experience was, you walk it a day at a time.
Yeah.
So we walked it a day at a time. So we found that she had been admitted. We got into caring for her. Pastor Pete's mom came in,
Friends.
stayed the night at the hospital.
Wow.
You engage the family. You don't try to do everything by yourself. When it's time to rest, you go rest. You sleep, you leave her with the other people to take care of her. You
Deal with
really
it,
just trust God.
Yeah, you trust God.
That's what you do.
Keep in mind that, of course, now we've just come from we're still trying to
funeral.
grieve. So you've not even properly just dealt with some of
No.
these things.
Yeah.
It was quite the challenge. But like my wife is saying, we made it. Really, faith is funny. Faith for me isn't that thing that you have some intellectual cognizance
Yeah.
of. Faith is something
Yeah.
that you live. Will the child live? And I remember praying distinctly that day. I was lying on the floor and said, "What more do you want from me? What more do you? I've given you I've given you my life, all my life. I've served you from my youth. I've given you. What more do you want? And if you want this child, take her. But I would rather that I keep her, because she needs to live out her dreams." And I sort of like I was arguing with God. And then remember one of my friends was Carol at the time coming up to me and saying, "Don't worry, she's going to be all right. We've prayed." And sure enough, she turned around, and after that season, it was a complete turnaround. And the thing is, you have to live it in public. You know, you have to live it.
Yeah.
And I think it was Pastor Alan or Pastor Kathy who said to me, I think it was Dr. Ngistu, one of them, who said, you preach this thing, so now you have to live it. Live what you preach. And so sometimes, you know, you just have to believe. You just believe and say, Lord, my life is in your hands, her life is in your hands, I release myself to you. I release myself to you, have your way. And there's a release in that. There's just such a peace. There's a peace that just comes on you and says, okay, it's going to be okay. Whatever the outcome, it's going to be okay. Whatever the outcome. Because if she goes, she's going to be with Jesus. If she doesn't, she's going to be with us. And either way, that's a good deal, whichever way. She's 14, almost 14. She'll be 14 next month now. And what a fighter. What an incredible girl.
Yeah, she is.
So it's, I think it's taught us to deal with difficulties. Yeah?
Yeah, I think it has. It's not all been difficult. You know, I'm careful to let. I hear people saying, "Oh, marriage is hard. Marriage is hard." You know, I don't think I would just categorize it and call it hard.
Okay.
Marriage is hard. Marriage is hard. You know, I don't think I would just categorize it and call it hard. People say marriage is hard. Marriage is not hard. Being married is part of life. And the difficult moments are part of life. But the lovely, fun, happy moments are part of life as well. You know, I would say don't focus on the difficulties. You know, focus on living.
Yeah.
Like we said, day at a time.
Marriage is hard when you don't know what to do. It's like driving. If you don't know how to drive, you can't. You know? And so it becomes difficult if no one has ever taught you how to drive. How are you going to drive? You know, you sit there and you say, okay, so what do we do next? I don't know. Push this button, do this, you know. And this is what many people I found are doing. They're struggling because they don't know what to do. And I suppose that's what it is.